Now, some arguments are just so stupid that I have to address them. And this is one of them. See, I would say this argument is an argument out of ignorance, being a little bit more respectful. But this is just an argument out of stupidity, out of anger, and out of emotions. And this brother who lives in Nigeria, you should know better than to say something like this. You come from a land that you can talk to your grandparents or your parents, and they can tell you about how things were when Nigeria was ruled by colonies, by the British colony, and how they forced their religion down your throat. But instead, you come and you say stupid stuff like this. Tell me that if I don't believe in Moses or Noah, if I believe that Moses and Noah never existed, and there's no proof, then Bonaparte, Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., Shakespeare, Newton, Michael Faraday, Alexander the Great, and Charles Dickens ever existed. This is just stupid. This is just stupid, but it's a common Christian argument that I receive. This one is stupid because it would have been better off if he would have said people like Plato, Socrates, people like that. Odysseus. People like that. That would have made more sense. But no, you listed people that are actually, for the most part, quite easy to prove. Some a little harder than others. But for most of the people that you listed, we have photographs. We have videos. The fact that you listed Dr. Martin Luther King is just freaking ridiculous to me. And that's the part that made me really say that you don't think. Especially as a man who grew up in Atlanta. A man who grew up and has met his wife. A man who has met his children. Spoken to them. A man whose pappy used to live across the street from him and were friends with him. We have a number of videos that show him at the Washington Monument speaking. Maybe it didn't mean shit to you, but it meant something to us here in America. But we got so many videos of this man. We got the body of this man. That was probably the dumbest one you could have put on there. Others like Michael Faraday, the man has written countless papers, not like your Moses or your Noah or your Jesus who never wrote anything. The overwhelming majority of people on here also wrote their own stuff, and we have the writings. We have Newton's papers. We have Faraday's. Faraday was a brilliant man, but we have so many of his writings and pictures of him. Charles Dickens, we have this freaking writings. Unless it's a pen name, but then someone would have to exist to be a pen name. And the same thing with Shakespeare. Now, Shakespeare may or may not have existed. It may have just been a pen name. But Isaac Newton, we have his writings. What in the three levels of hell is going on in your brain? Napoleon Bonaparte. Oh, I guess they just started a war and just made up a leader, and people just went and fought and died in that war. But we have writings from Napoleon. We have his own autobiography from Napoleon. You should have stuck with people like Alexander the Great. But even that one doesn't really work out for you, does it? Because unlike Jesus, we have coinage with the imprint of Alexander's face on it. Now, there's no country in the world at any given time frame that you can pinpoint that has put a face on a piece of coinage that did not represent someone who existed as a ruler of that country at some time frame, some point in time. And I guess the people in India just made up that they were conquered by the Greeks. That the Persians just made up that they were conquered by the Greeks. That the Egyptians were just made up that they were conquered by the Greeks. We have writings from Alexander. We have writings from Ptolemy, who was one of his generals that got Egypt. Dude, we have absolutely zero artifacts of Moses and Noah. Zero. Not one. Zero. At least we have artifacts of Alexander the Great. And actually, I like to call him Alexander the Greek. But we have many artifacts of Alexander. We got writings from Charles Dickens and Shakespeare. Maybe pen names, but the writings exist. And we have so many documents of all the other people. We got pictures of Abraham Lincoln because guess what? Photography was invented back then. We got speeches that he wrote. We got the information that he signed, and maybe it don't mean much to you, But the Emancipation Proclamation with his signature on it, we got that guy. We got that. So you telling me the American government is just lying and saying that President Abraham Lincoln never existed and they just inserted some fake ass president during the Civil War? If that was the case, the Southern Confederacy, who are still running around today, would be having a field day on that one. But no, we got too many documentations that was written by them, not by other people, but by them, not written thousands of years later, but by them at their time frame that they lived. Whereas characters like your Jesus, zero historians who lived during the time frame of Jesus wrote about Jesus. The earliest historian that wrote about Jesus was Josephus. He wrote about 4 different Jesuses. And Josephus wasn't born until 34 CE, and didn't even really write about him, about the Jesuses, until around 80 CE. So, decades after the supposedly events happened. But no other historian at the time that was alive during his time frame wrote about him. Tacitus wrote about what people believed. Pliny wrote about what people believe. They all just wrote about what people believe, but they could not and are not writing at first-hand accounts. So, dude, this is a stupid-ass argument. And you put Martin Luther King Jr. in there. When you wrote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you should have just stopped and said, nah, that one's stupid. Let me not put that one in there. When you wrote Faraday, you should have said, nah, we got photos. Let me stop. Let me not write that one in there. Oh my gosh. Like I said, normally I would ignore these kinds of arguments, but this one was just so stupid that it deserved my attention. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.